Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivanadari Gopijana Vallabha Girivanadari Jasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamunitira Vanatari Jamunitira Vanatari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivanadari Jasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanatari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Dibo Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paribhajacharya Sri Shriman's Divine Grace Abhay Charan Bhakti Vedanta Sai Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki. ISKCON BBT founder Charya Jaguru Srila Prabhupada ki. Anantakura Vaishnava Vrinda ki. Namchar Srila Haridas Thakur ki. Prem Shri Goho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki. Vrindavan Dham ki. Mathura Dham ki. Dwarka Dham ki. Navadip Dham ki. Jagannath-puri Dham ki. Jamuna Mai ki. Ganga Mai ki. Tulsi Maharani ki. Bhakti Devi ki. Sambhita Bhakti Vrinda ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. Sri Siddhara Giridhara ki. Shri Krishna Sankirtana Jaga ki. Gopremanande. All glories to the Assembled Devotees. All glories to the Assembled Devotees. All glories to the Assembled Devotees. All glories to the Divine Lotus Feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Krishna Svadamo Pakate Dharmagyanadi Bisaha Kalauna Sadasham Mesha Purana Kodadodata Narana Namaskritcha Naram Chaivam Narotama Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Urdirayet. Bhagavatam is Brinda's son, is originated after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied with knowledge, religion, etc. Persons who have lost their vision to the dense darkness of the age of Kali shall get light out of this Parana. Did I forget something? Not yet. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Let's see, we may need the book. I'm having a little issue here with my computer. Yeah, we have the... Oh, geez. You may... Okay, can I borrow yours? Thank you very much. So we are on Canto 6, Chapter 1, Text 17. Sadrichino hi ayam loke panta shemo kuto vaya sushila sadavo yatra narayana parayana Sadrichino hyayam loke Pantashemo kuto baya Shushila sadavo yatra Narayana parayanaha Sadrichino hyayam loke Pantashemo kuto bayaha Sushila sadavo yatra Narayana parayanaha Sadrichino hyayam loke Pantashemo kuto bayaha Sushila sadavo yatra Narayana parayanaha Sadrichino hyayam loke Pantashemo kuto bayaha Sushila yasano yatra Narayana parayana Surichino okay Pantashemo kuto baya Sushila Sadavo Yatra Narayana Parayanaha. Maharaj, I'm not keeping you away from your converting the Shaivites, are am I? Maharaj is working on a hard nut to crack, but if anybody can do it, you can. Anyone else want to chant the verse? Sarichino hiyam loke Pantashimo kutobaya Shushila sadavo yatra Narayana parayanaha. Mataji, you want to hold up the Vaishnavis end of the thing? Sadrichino heyam loke Pantakshimo kutobaya Sushila sadavyo yatra Narayana parayanaha. Sadrichina, just appropriate. He certainly. I am this. Loke, in the world. Panta, path. Shema, auspicious. Akutabaya, without fear. Sushila, well behaved. Sadava, saintly person. Yatra, wherein. Narayana parayana, those who've taken the path of Narayan. Devotional service as their life and soul. Translation. The path followed by pure devotees who are well behaved and fully endowed with the best qualifications is certainly the most auspicious path in the material world. It is free from fear and it is authorized by the Shastras. Also you say, the path followed by the pure devotees who are well behaved and fully endowed with the best qualifications is certainly the most auspicious path in this material world. It is free from fear and is authorized by the Shastra. Purport. One should not think that persons who take to bhakti the person who takes the bhakti is one who cannot perform the ritualistic ceremonies recommended in the Karmakanda section of the Vedas, or is not sufficiently educated to speculate on spiritual subjects. Mayavadis generally allege that the bhakti path is for women and illiterates. This is a groundless accusation. What's going on out there? Huh? Oh, okay. Let's see. If we shut that, is it going to be too... all right, well, go ahead. The bhakti path is followed by the most learned scholars, such as the Goswamis, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Ramanujacharya. These are the actual followers of the path, of the bhakti path. Regardless of whether or not one is educated or aristocratic, one must follow in their footsteps. Mahajana yena gata sapanta. One must follow the path of the Mahajans. The Mahajans are those who have taken to the path of devotional service. Sushila sadavo yatra narayana parayanaha. For those great personalities are the perfect persons, as stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 5:18-12. Yasyasati bhaktir bhagavati yakinchana savarguna tatra samasate suraha. One who has unflinching devotion to the personality of Godhead has all the good qualities of the demigods. The less intelligent, however, misunderstand the path of bhakti and therefore allege that it is for one who cannot execute regular ceremonies or speculate. As confirmed here by the word sadrichina, bhakti is the path that is appropriate, not the path of the karmakanda or jnanakanda. Mayavadis may be sushila sadhava, well-behaved saintly persons, but there is nevertheless some doubt about whether they are actually making progress, for they have not accepted the path of bhakti. On the other hand, those who follow the path of the acharyas are sushila and sadhava. But furthermore, their path is akutabhaya, which means free from fear. One who is fearless follows the 12 Mahajans and their line of disciplic succession, and thus be liberated from the clutches of Maya. Om Agena Temirandasya Agena Gena Salakaya Jakshush and Midatan Gena Tasmadishi Gurave Namaha. So, there's a lot of things in this verse, and I promise to come close to ending on time. And I'm a little embarrassed speaking in front of Maharaj, but I'm going to struggle through anyway. And you can correct me anytime you like. You can step in and say, wait a minute, get me back on the right path. I don't mind. Dravida does it regularly, and it's very healthy for me. I was thinking about who to hear from. Everybody's hearing from somebody. Like you wake up early in the morning. Have you ever been on top of a hill and watched a town below you awaken? You hear the birds chirping, and then you hear that person delivering the newspaper. In the old days, you see them delivering the milk, and then the school children going off to school. And everywhere there's a chirping. The birds are chirping. The Prabhupada said the birds are asking, where is worm, where is worm? And the man's looking at the Wall Street, where is money, where is money? So they're all hearing and chanting. Everybody's hearing and chanting. But the question is, because hearing and chanting creates our values, it creates our goals, what do we consider worthy? Anyway, well, there was a lady, there's like these Indian ladies came, and they're very nice devotees, they're old friends at the temple. So it was a Saturday morning, a lot of people were coming and going. I got her a little prasadam. She put it back on this ledge, and she went to, look at beautiful Radha Giridhari and see their lotus feet up close. So I said to her, hey, you might want to keep an eye on that, her prasadam. And she laughed. She said, my daughter was dancing for Janmashtami. Her diamond earrings fell on the floor. Nobody could find them. Next day, devotees found them, gave them back. She said, my husband left a $6,000 video camera on one of the ledges here. We forgot it. Next day, devotees called, they gave it back. She said, but twice I've had my prasadam stolen. So I just, I say we just get a different set of priorities, But what's valuable? My point is, by hearing and chanting, value is established, and goals, and all that stuff. So it's a question of who to hear from. And there should be, one should think about these things, And I was thinking about a few of these. It's a long story, but there was a householder couple that used to fight a lot. And when I was the president here. And after some time, the householders all chipped in money and got them 6 marriage counseling sessions. Hey, we're trying to help out, right? But here's the funny thing. The husband was a little skeptical of the thing, and he was the cause of the problem. But he was a little skeptical of the whole thing. And his way out was when he went to see the marriage counselor, she'd been divorced 3 times. He said, well, what's with this? That's not really a success path. So, okay. And then there was a famous, when I was a kid, keep it on the DL there, my friend. It's a little distracting. I appreciate the enthusiasm, but there was a marriage counselor, not a marriage counselor, advice columnist. It was Dear Abby, and Dear Abby had a sister. Yeah, she had a sister, and who was equally famous. She was mostly famous on the East Coast. Yeah, New York Times, Philadelphia Eagle, or whatever it was. They're all running her thing. 45 years old, she jumped out of a window and committed suicide. Well, hang on a minute. Well, how's that for good advice? So, those are extreme examples. Oh, here's another one. There was a therapist. And it's a long story, and I'll spare the details. But there was a friend of the temple was going to a therapist, had a lot of issues, and the therapist wanted to talk to me to get some insight and stuff like that, a little background. So I called her. And she had a very British, Oxford accent. She was very clipped and, clear and very soothing voice. And she'd evidently just walked into her house, and she was on the cell phone. I called her back, and then all of a sudden her dog had chewed up the mail or something. I don't know, because and she just flipped out. She just went off on this screaming and yelling at this dog. Went on for about a minute and a half, and then, and where were we, sir? I thought, well, this lady's got a pin loose herself, so how's she going to help anybody? So the simple point is, those are extreme examples, but who do we hear from? I was looking at the elements of this verse, and it says, well, there is a path. There is, in fact, a path. People are thinking, well, it's all situational ethics, and everybody's got their own truth, and what works for you, and they're all stumbling around different. But what if there actually is a clear path out of this place? That's what this verse is saying. It's saying, actually, here's how you do it. There's step A, there's step B, and it works. People don't like to accept. They don't like to accept. My brother, when I was reading Prabhupada's Gita, he came into my room. This is 1969, whatever it is. And he was an English professor, college professor, and he looked at gave it up in frustration and became a fireman. And that shows you what academia did for him. But he looked at the Gita, and he said, Prabhupada's Gita. And he picked up and looked and said, oh, you're reading this? And I said, no, I'm using it as a paperweight, So, but I said, yeah. I said, this is the most fantastic book I've ever read in my life. He said, it lays everything out so simply. They like that vague area that, Tamal Krishna Maharaj met a professor. I was standing next to Tamal Krishna Maharaj. Vishnu John Maharaj was chanting, talk about the door of liberation opening. And this professor came, this is University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. This professor came up to us and said, we started some chit-chat and this and that. So Tamal asked him, have you read Bhagavad Gita? He said, of course I've read. He was teaching of world religion. Of course I've read Bhagavad Gita. So Tamal asked him, well, did you understand it? He was deeply offended. Of course I understood it. I have a PhD. Of course I understood it. So Tamal then said, so what are you going to do? And the guy you watch this look of bewilderment, of puzzlement, of do, that somehow or other the Bhagavad Gita was a call to a specific action. It says, I've had other people, we've had people, long story, make it short, we've had people what are you guys all about? Met us on Harinam, you give them a Bhagavad Gita, they're sitting there reading, we're chanting, we get to the end. In those days we were pretty tight. So, hey, give the book back. Well, wait, you got $10 on you? No. Well, give the book back. So he said, no, I haven't finished reading it. It's true, Sri Govinda, Sri Govinda, the old Prabhupada Sri Govinda. So came back to the Detroit temple, stayed up all night. After Mangalarti, he went up to the temple president, Govardhan, said, so what do I do now? Govardhan said, huh? He said, well, the end of Gita says, surrender to me, become my devotee. Don't hesitate, don't fear. That was it. Just Dhruva Maharaj, our local Dhruva Maharaj, got a copy of, it's a long story, we're off track. Same story. Got a copy of the Gita, a smart guy. Middlebury, nice guy, smart guy. So he got Bhagavad Gita, sat down on the patio, read the whole thing, surrendered, never left. Shaved up, moved in, never left. So, but yet this professor was puzzlement, what is their purpose? So that's the point what if there actually is a path? So first, who to hear from, and then what is their direction? Their direction is to give you the path of bhakti. I'm going to go through this quickly because I actually want to get to something else. It's a two-way street. Okay, fine. But here it's describing the qualities of a proper to hear properly. It's not just, I think, have they finished the jug outside? Oh, why don't we click on those fans? Can we click? Is that too cold for you, Dravida Prabhu? All righty. If it's going to work, it's not just a mundane exchange. It's not just you can read it. What, you know, do you ever get those pictures of the ear? It's got that what is it, the anvil and the hammer and the drum or whatever, the different bones in the ear. And if you ever go get your ears checked, they've got that, you know, sectional, that slice cut, and you can see it. And then behind it, there's the audio nerve, and it goes to the, you know. It's not just that. It's not just there's some vibration, and it goes to your ear, and it goes into the brain, and if you're smart, you understand. That's not it at all. You can have extremely intelligent people can read Bhagavad Gita and completely miss the point. There's that guy, what's Chinmayananda, who I think has dropped dead by now, thank heaven. Yeah. And he was a big professor somewhere. And here's what he was, one of Krishna's name is Hari, right? Well, what does Hari mean? Hari means one who takes away. Well, who takes away? A thief. Well, when are thieves active? Night. At night, you can't see everything. When you can't see things, everything's unknown, right? So when it says Hari, when it says surrender unto Hari, surrender unto Krishna, it means surrender unto the unknown. I mean, here's the truth. And he's gone from here to here to here to here and wound up over here. He's completely off in left field. So it's a question of, there needs to be, here it's describing the qualities necessary to hear properly. It's a two-way street. The message is there, the signal's going out. Just like your radio. The signal's going out, right? Everybody still use a radio? You got to tune the thing, right? You got to pick up the signal. So that's what this is describing. First, there is a path, and you got to tune yourself to it. You got to hear from the right people. And why does it matter? Well, okay, so I do all those things. Why? When I was a kid, and I think everybody used to do this, you ever sneak up on somebody and say boo, and just watch them jump? I mean, there's a certain, I don't know if it's ghastly or us, I don't know exactly what it is, but why do people jump? Why? Huh? They're not ready, okay, but you know, if somebody walked in with $1 million and I wasn't ready, I'd be sure it wouldn't faze me. I'd say, oh, the hundi's right there, my friend. So why? Huh? Unexpected, that's the same thing he said, weren't ready. What's the underlying thread of this material world? Fear. Prabhupada said of the four miseries, birth, death, disease, what is it? Where do we get the eating, sleeping, mating, and defending? That's it. Prabhupada said defending also means fearing. Prabhupada said of the four, fearing is the greatest anxiety. People, because I saw a bumper sticker the other day that said, if you're not paranoid, you have not been paying attention. I mean, there's a good reason to be fearful in this world. It's you know, you go to the doctor, you got a cough. There was a man who came here, he had a little cough. This is before COVID, you know, now everybody's coughing in. But before he had a little cough, his wife said, you know, we've had it for a week, we're going to go see the doctor. Went to see the doctor, guy's 44 years old, good health, beautiful wife, bank balance, nice kids, plenty of savings. Turns out he had terminal cancer. He was gone in 4 months. So, I mean, those are extreme examples, but it's not extreme. I mean, everybody in here, and I'm going to go first. All of us are going to shuffle off the mortal coil. Off we go. So it matters because how everyone is in anxiety. I think is it Thoreau says most people lead lives of quiet desperation. Anyway, it's a good line. Whoever said it, most people live lives of quiet desperation. So there is this fear factor. So I wanted to move on to something else. I was reading, I have Bhanu Maharaj's translation of Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on the Bhagavatam. And so I read his Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on this verse. And his take on this fearing is that we're afraid that we won't succeed. That's what an underlying fear is, that we're thinking, well, yeah, I won't succeed. And then he says when the devotees are well behaved, it means the devotees are kind. The devotees will help us. So even if we think, well, I'm just, if we're honest with ourselves, one person stood up, was interrupting Prabhupada's lecture. Oh, I'm the most fallen, I'm the most this, I'm the most that. Prabhupada said, please, sir, sit down. You're not the most anything. Just to get, shake up because the fact is, you're all great saints who took birth to serve Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. But, for me, I'm a dog that took some prasadam somehow or other. Just, somebody said Hare Krishna, or sprinkle a little, RT water on me or something, So if we accept our actual position, and sometimes it's not easy. It's not guaranteed that it's an easy path going back to Godhead. But we should have assurance that Krishna will help us, the previous acharyas will help us, the devotees will help us. You may wonder, because I got a bunch of harassment when we installed this Ganesh. We didn't install, just we put Ganesh above the front door of the temple, the entrance here. Oh, I was a demigod worshiper. They always knew I was a little fishy, and whatever. It was all revealed, my actual nature. And the way the thing calmed down was I sent them a picture of the entrance to the Radharaman temple, Gopal Bhatta's Radharaman temple. And I sent a picture of Sanatana Goswami's Madan Mohan temple. And I sent a picture of over the door of Rupa Goswami's Govindaji temple. All of them have a nice little Ganesh over the door. Why? Everybody's praying to Ganesh, give me something. Clear the path so I can get into college. Clear the path so my kid can, whatever it is, clear that. They're all praying. And Ganesh in his role fulfills those. So people are always asking him to clear the path on the mundane obstacles from a mundane path. It's a bit of a drag. If you were a just like devotees, we have jobs. Householders have jobs. And it's not often that they really like to do it. There was a lady, her name was Janaki. She worked for this Michigan State Board of Equalization. Equalization is a polite way of saying it was the tax board. Yeah, it's equal. I take from you and I give it to us, and your balance goes down, my debt balance goes up. That's why it's equalization, So she would process their tax returns. And there was like 500 people. Just picture a mass office with a whole bunch of cubicles, right? And it was before the big computer days. So nobody really knew what everybody was doing. So every now and then she'd get, from McDonald's or from whatever it was, Kentucky Fried Chicken, she'd just pitch their form. Just pitch it in the trash can every time she got one. And then, they would get, hey, we didn't get you. You got a $5,000 fine for filing late. So she always felt a little happiness when she did. So, I was calling one time for information. This is where everything was computerized. And I was looking for, these, such and such. I forget what it was. In Delaware. And the person gave me the information I needed. It was actually, it was the temple. It was the temple in New Jersey. So I was calling for the address, and the person on the voice, the 411 or whatever it was, gave me the address, and then said, Hare Krishna Prabhu, click. That was it. It was a devotee. It was a devotee working on the answer, giving information on and you can imagine, he was happy. They got to, serve a devotee. So when in the course of our ordinary activities, if you're out there in the karmi world working, like a mechanic, you pull in and you're fixing cars, all the changing tires. You get to change the Sankirtan vans, tires. Fantastic. I'll get some mercy from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So they feel a little enlivened. So Ganesh, when he gets to clear the path of bhakti for a devotee, he's very happy. It's all day long he's clearing the path for mundane people. He gets to clear the path for a devotee. He's very enlivened. So that's why, according to Rupa Goswami, we have Ganesh over the door, because he's just eager to clear the path for the devotees. So we should be without fear that Krishna is going to help us. Now, what I actually wanted to get to, and we'll wrap up, is that, what's a throw? Gotcha. Well, stop clocks right twice a day. You know, there's fear, and we're talking about having confidence in Krishna and his devotees that they'll save me. And I was thinking of that trust exercise, you know, that you close your eyes and you lean back and your fellow, workers at your company or whatever, they catch you, right? And it's supposed to be a trust building, you know. Sometimes they don't catch you, you know. If you're a real knucklehead, they just... So if they catch you, then it develops some trust. So we're talking about becoming fearless by being on the right path, following the instructions of the Mahajans. It may appear sometimes that Krishna doesn't catch us. You know, all right, fine, I'll surrender to Krishna, I'm depending on Krishna, and wham, something happened. You know, heavy things, it's not uncommon. I mean, if you look at Prabhupada's life, and you look at the lives of many of the acharyas, I mean, Ramanujacharya, his own guru, tried to kill him. I mean, there's so, quite often a devotee's path is not easy. It's not uncommon. I mean, Prabhupada said according to his poem, he was supposed to become one of the richest men in India. I mean, Krishna did it, fulfilled it in his own way. Prabhupada became, more influential than, who can imagine all over the planet. But that money, when he was in his household life, it didn't come. Rather, it was a very uphill struggle. So it's not uncommon. So one may think, okay, I'm supposed to take to this path. Krishna's going to help me, the devotees are going to... How come they don't show up sometimes? Anyone ever... Well, I don't want a true confessions moment, but I wanted to read something which explains that phenomena. Just like I was thinking about this. You know, there's the story of Jonah and the whale in the Bible. I mean, Jonah gets really... he has a rough ride. And there's, Job, Job gets... His kids die, he gets boils, he gets so many different things happen to him. Here's the reason those things happen. Because the devil, this is their story in the Bible, the devil said to God was saying, just see how nice my devotees are. And the devil said, sure, when you're giving them everything they want, they're nice. You see when they're in some difficulty, see what they actually say. So to prove the stellar quality of the surrender of his devotees, he put them through hell. And they did not turn, they did not waver. And the devil was defeated. Okay, but it seems a little, I don't know who to pick on. Suppose I just put Dmitri through hell to show that he's a nice devotee. Well, it's a little sadistical if you ask me, So, but then you can say, well, Krishna tests his devotees in so many ways. He puts devotees in tough spots. Why? Isn't that a reasonable... I mean, Prabhupada said that doubt is the next door neighbor of the self. We should ask. There's answers to things, but it's not that we don't ask. We're afraid. There's people of kanistas in every spiritual tradition. They don't really want to ask too many questions because it might shake their faith. They're pretty careful about what and then if they whatever. And on one hand, that's a nice thing. Better to protect your faith than just but it's better to go through that dark night of the soul and come up with the right answer. That's better. Prabhupada said, we don't want blind... Bhavananda told me that he was on a morning walk with Prabhupada in Beverly Hills. And they were walking along big houses. You can imagine, mansions and the gate and the driveway and the Rolls Royce and parked in front, like the whole thing, right? So they're going along. And Bhavananda and Prabhupada had a ras, because it's actually Bhavananda, means one who enjoys the material nature. So Prabhupada said to Bhavananda that I've given you the kingdom of God, take it and enjoy. Meaning use your talents for Krishna's service. He gave him Mayapur, that's what he said. I've given you the kingdom of God, take it and enjoy. For Krishna. To use Krishna's things in Krishna's service, not for ourselves, is the real pleasure. But he had an enjoying spirit. So Prabhupada said, so they're walking along in Beverly Hills, and Bhavananda's eyeing the mansion, saying, I used to live in one of those, and little. Prabhupada said, someday we'll have a big mansion, a big house like this for Krishna. And the devotees all said, Jai Prabhupada. They got a little further. There's a shiny Rolls Royce or Mercedes in the driveway. Prabhupada said, someday we'll have a big car like that for Krishna. The devotee said, Jai Prabhupada. They walked a little further. The gate was closed, luckily. Big dog, run down the road barking. Prabhupada said, someday we'll have a big dog like that for Krishna. The devotee said, Jai Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, you fools, what do you want a dog for? In other words, they were just, Prabhupada was seeing how blindly the devotees would do Jai Prabhupada, We're not just a crank machine, we're supposed to think about it, So Prabhupada just wanted to see, hello, anybody home, Are you listening? So, why does Krishna test us? We've agreed on that. Now, I was going to read, here we go. So, because we're supposed to be fearless, we're supposed to trust Krishna, and we're finding we lean back and he doesn't catch us sometimes. Apparently. So this is from the first canto, chapter 6, verse 8. And it's when Narada Muni is explaining to Srila Vyasadeva how he became Narada Muni. He's explaining, he's giving his bio of how, So I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll just read the climatic part of it. When I was a mere child of 5 years, I lived in a Brahmana school. I was dependent on my mother's affection and I had no experience of different lands. Once upon a time, my poor mother, when going out at night to milk a cow, was bitten on the leg by a serpent, influenced by supreme time. Prabhupada says, that is the way of dragging a sincere soul nearer to God. The poor boy was being looked after only by his affectionate mother, and yet the mother was taken from the world by the supreme will in order to put him completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord. I took this, he's a little boy, and all he's got is his mother. Who knows where the father's gone? What happened, And his mother dies? How does it say how old he was? Anyone know how old he was? Oh, he's a 5-year-old boy. 5-year-old boy. His mother, So how did Narada respond? Prabhupada said this is the arrangement of the Supreme Lord. Prabhupada says to drag him to the point of being completely at the mercy of the Lord. How did Narada respond? 5-year-old boy. I took this as a special mercy of the Lord, who always desires benediction for his devotees. And so thinking, I started for the north. He was thinking, there must be a reason for this. There must be the mercy of the Lord. Now I'm free. I have no obligation to help my mother. I have no one else to depend on. Let me take shelter of Krishna. So he took the right point. And Prabhupada says in the purport, confidential devotees of the Lord see in every step a benedictory direction of the Lord. I'll say that again. Confidential devotees of the Lord see in every step a benedictory direction of the Lord. What is considered to be an odd or difficult moment in the mundane sense is accepted as special mercy of the Lord. Mundane prosperity is a kind of material fever, and by the grace of the Lord, the temperature of this material fever is gradually diminished, and spiritual health is obtained step by step. Mundane people misunderstand it. And I'm going to read one more thing from a further purport. Prabhupada says, a sincere devotee earnestly desires to go back to the Lord's abode. Therefore, he willingly accepts the Lord's merciful punishment and continues offering respects and obeisances to the Lord within his heart, words, and body. Such a bona fide servant of the Lord, considering all the hardship, a small price to pay. What's up with this? For gaining the personal association of the Lord, certainly becomes a legitimate son of God, as indicated here by the word dayabhak. Just as one approaches the sun without becoming fire, one cannot approach the supreme, pure Lord Krishna without undergoing a rigid purificatory process, which may appear like suffering, but which is in fact a curative treatment administered by the personal hand of the Lord. I'll read that one more time. So what's going on here? I'm trusting Krishna. I'm trying to depend on Krishna, and he's just hit me with a wrecking ball, came through the window. I had my plan. Everything was in place. What happened? I'll give you as long as the personal moment. I was running along. I was a young household, a temple president. Had a I thought, sweet wife who loved me, had my little kids. I had a peaceful household life. Wham! She ran off with another man. What? You know, came home, gone. Left me with the kids, which was actually Krishna's mercy. So, I mean, that was a shock. I said, you know, and I was 30 years old. I thought, geez, I don't want to get married again. I said, you know, so what am I going to do? But I can tell you from the bottom of my heart, it worked out okay for her, worked out, kids are fine, and worked out for me, you know. It has a happy ending all the way around, you know. Krishna literally just pulled me out of the well. It's Krishna's mercy on me. There's absolutely no question about it. So I don't mean to make light of other people's suffering. And Prabhupada says, you know, if you can fix it, you know. We don't, you know. But if there's nothing you can do about it, then take it as the will of the Lord. And I'll read this sentence and we'll end. Yeah. I'll just read this part. One must become pure, and therefore, which may appear like suffering, but which is in fact, here's the sentence, a curative treatment administered by the personal hand of the Lord. So when that happens, one thinks, hey, like, you know, I always get a kick out of it. I'm on the airplane, and the pilot tells you what direction he's taking. Oh, we're going to fly over the Grand Canyon, and we're going to hang a left at Utah, and then we're going to come in at, you know, we're going to move up to 30. Hey, just fly the plane. I don't know. You know what you want me to say? No. I think you better go at 3,000. You know, I'm not going to. I don't. Just you know what you're doing. Fly the plane. Or when I was lying on that for my heart surgery. I'm lying on the table there, right? They're just about to send me off. I'm chanting Brahma Samhita. They're just about to send me off to who knows where. You're on the subtle plane. And the guy's telling me what he's going to do. Well, now we're going to go to this. We're going to go through the left, or you know, we're going to do this, and then we're going to. You know. I said, look, man, just do what you're going to do. You know, I'm not really going to be watching. I'm not going to be able to give you. No. I think you better use that scalpel. You know. I said, I trust you. Just wake me up when it's over. So in the same way, not blindly, but we know that behind it is Krishna. And he's doing his therapeutic, the all-good hand of the merciful Lord. So that's how we have trust and process when times are difficult. So we can end there. Anyone have a question? Wait, before Vijay.
Yes, Maharaj.
No. I said, hang on, Vijay. I'm going to let you ask a question because I cut you off yesterday. But I want to see if anyone else has
I can wait, no problem.
Thank you, Prabhu.
You're welcome, Maharaj.
Do you have a job? Do you work?
Book distribution, door to door and person to person in the streets.
Because the thing is, wherever I go, you're there on Zoom. I was thinking, when does this man work? Are you retired?
More or less, my priority now, I'm 61 years old.
Okay, good.
Is to absorb Srimad Bhagavatam as much and as best as possible because I'm preparing for the final exam.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Prabhu. I just was curious of the background. That's very noble of you. Okay, did you have a question, Maharaj?
Right. You got it. Oh, thank you. So, can this be misunderstood?
Definitely.
In the sense that maybe neophyte devotees, because of their bad karma, they're suffering from something, and they blame it on the Lord because, oh, the Lord is testing me, you know. Like in the Christian religion, the answer for all their problems is that the Lord is testing me like he tested Job, you know.
Exactly.
But we know there's a law of karma, and people may be suffering because of their past karma. Not everything is dictated by the Lord directly, at least. Only maybe the case of advanced devotees.
I got it. I got it. And I beg to differ with you. Okay. No doubt, Prabhupada says, you know, if we meant to have our arm lopped off and you know, we hit our thumb with a hammer. So no doubt there's karmic and there's a reaction. No doubt there's karma and there's reactions. But those are minimized for the devotees. But even beyond that, the devotee is under the Daiva Prakriti. The devotee is under the personal direction of the Lord. And Krishna He's the ultimate multitasker. He can give us whatever the karmic reaction for our multitude of misdeeds. He can give us the reaction. He can simultaneously modify it. Sometimes for a small thing, Krishna, like, was it Yamaraj, as a small boy, poked was it an ant or something with a straw?
It was a sage.
Was a sage. Oh, and he asked Yamaraj, what is this, These people almost pierced me with a lance. I think there was a thief, and the thief hid in his ashram or something. There was some confusion, and the police and the soldiers of the king thought he had stolen. And he was all the way down to they were going to spear him, wasn't it? Something like that? And the last minute he got sorted out and the king saved him, or he was spared. And when he held a grudge for a while, when he finally went before Yamaraj, he said, hey, hang on a minute. If you're ever before Yamaraj, which devotees aren't, I don't recommend arguing with him. But anyway, this sage, he wanted truth. He was a truth seeker. Hey, well, what happened? And it was described that as a small boy, he'd pierced a bug or an ant with a straw. And so sometimes karma is even greater than, you would think. But Krishna gives the right type of karma. I did A, I should get B by Manusamhita. But because the devotee is under the divine energy, he may magnify that suffering, he may modify that suffering, and in the course of this, the type and the method that he delivers that suffering is purifying. It's part of his divine. The devotee is never cast adrift under the modes of material nature. And that's for having once called out, Hey Govinda, even we forget Krishna. It says in Nectar Devotion, you call out Hey Govinda once, sincerely. And even if you forget Krishna, Krishna will never forget you. So I would humbly offer, your point is valid. We do have misdeeds and we're suffering from them. But I say that suffering is still delivered in a therapeutic way by the divine mastery of the Lord to bring us back to Godhead. It's not just tit for tat, action, reaction.
That's in the case of devotees. What about those who are not devotees?
Oh, not devotees. They are completely adrift. Prabhupada says they're like being kicked like a football, and he means soccer. They are mercilessly harassed. No question about that. You wonder about those guys in Calcutta that are rolling on the ground, no arms, no legs, playing harmonicas? So they did something.
Well, one comment about that. That's how we got Vidura. Yamaraj was cursed.
Yeah.
We're going to get Vidura.
Yeah.
The other thing is just to expand on this whole pastime you told about how Narada, the boy his mother gets cursed. The reason why he was that way, he had already had that experience with the sages. That's the whole point of the.
I didn't want to go through the whole thing because of time factor.
But that's what this is.
Okay,
all
so anyone else? Are we fire for Vijay? Yeah, because I'm thinking it's a little late. Vijay Prabhu.
I'm going to jump the line because I had a question yesterday that got preempted after listening to Madhava Prabhu's wonderful class. I didn't get to ask my question, and now you're in the hot seat. So
is this Maitreya? Who is?
Yeah, this is.
I will.
Hare Krishna. Very nice to see you and Vaikuntha Prabhu at the same time. Hare Krishna. So the other 2 days ago,
ether world.
So Dimitri asked a nice question the other day, Dimitri Prabhu, about the quality of chanting, and it's such an important anga, hearing. And he was asking, how can we improve the quality of the hearing? Is it increasing the quantity? And you've traveled a lot, and you've had to do hearing and chanting in situations that aren't the ideal pin drop in the forest that we aspire after when we hear Bhagavatam. But I thought you'd have some insights into that, and it's an important topic. And so I just wanted to hear from you something about improving and increasing the quality of our hearing and our hearing.
Are we talking about japa, or are you talking about class, or is it a general rule?
Like, for instance, if we're in the car, I'm listening to a lecture by Srila Prabhupada while I'm driving. So it's not the ideal situation. Or like when we used to go to the airport by Sheshka Prabhu and we would chant the Chaitanya Charitamrita in the van on the way. You could say not the ideal environment, but we're trying to hear and chant as much as
hang
possible.
on. And that supposes, okay, I could chant on a clicker. I saw a devotee had a clicker, those clickers, and he put a tulsi bead on the thing that you push down. So he was touching, Well, okay. If it's extra, we should have in our life, You know, there's that famous example. Well, I'll say what I was saying. We should have time in our life where we seriously chant japa, we seriously read without distraction. If you want to do extra, I mean, anything I know devotees who chant verses in the shower. Dravida Prabhu, I don't like a gulab jamun. Anytime you touch it, you get juice. You know, he's probably chanting who knows when, you know. While he's making a sandwich, or I don't know, whatever he's doing, you know. Yeah, definitely. So if it's extra, we should chant anywhere and everywhere, at all times, in all places, under our breath. If we're, you know, Guna Grai Maharaj was chanting japa one time in a bead bag in a bank, and all of a sudden everybody got silent, and he noticed they were looking at him, and the security guard came over with a drawn gun, with a shotgun. They thought he had a gun in the bag, and he was fingering, getting ready to, you know, rob the bank, you know. So, you know, we have to be aware of time, place, and circumstance. And when you're driving your car, it's, you know, don't go into ecstasy and lose sight of the road. You know, we've got to focus and concentrate. And so, the example I was thinking of is if you have an empty box, you have rocks, big rocks, and you have sand. Now, it's given, it's a fact, a priori, that everything, the sand and the rocks will fit in that box. They'll just fit. No extra room, but they will fit. So box, empty box, big rocks, sand. What do you put in the box first? You put the rocks in. Yeah, why? And the sand will fill in all the small empty spaces. You put the sand in first, you'll never get the rocks in. So we didn't take a vow. We vowed to serve Krishna to the best of our ability at all times, yes. But we didn't take a vow to mop the floor every day. We didn't take a vow to make sure the potatoes were cut. We didn't make a vow. What did we promise at the time of initiation? We promised 16 rounds, follow the regular principles like that. So that's the big rock. I need an hour a day to chant. To read. And, you know, hour and a half, 2 hours. Prabhupada said a Brahmin can chant his rounds between an hour and a half, 2 hours. We need an hour and a half, 2 hours. That we have a right to that. Like they say, demand your rights. You know, people demand their rights. You know, I demand justice. Each of us has the right in our life to have 2 hours. Maybe you need longer, maybe you get done a little less, whatever. But you should have that time set aside. It's fixed. You know, there's always an emergency, but it's not an emergency every day. There's maybe a couple times a year there's an emergency and you have to chant, you know. I remember we used to have a festival in Balboa Park, Festival of Indian stuff. And, you know, to set up the whole festival, I was running around this and that, you know. So I was actually chanting my japa, driving a truck. Flatbed. We used to have that old Toyota truck, you know. I was driving up the hill to drop, and I had in the back of the van the hot halava. That's a key point. In those trash cans, you know, we brought new trash cans, and I had 4 of them in the back of the van, back of the truck, full of halava. Now, the devotees, to save money, had gotten the cheapest trash can possible. And as I was going up, is it Laurel? I forget the name of it. I was going up, you know, and I was looking at I looked out the river as I was chanting japa, and I'm driving and you know. My point being, that's really not when to chant, but I remember the trash cans melting. I could slowly see them bulging. There's nothing I could do. You know, I don't know, it was like 60 gallons if you you know, of hot, and the bag and its size just ballooned, and there was halava and plastic all over the back of the, you know. So I took it, well, maybe I should have chanted japa when I'm supposed to chant japa. You know, some metaphysical reason. I don't know if that's exactly the causality of the thing. But we have to do that. We promised we would do it. It's essential for our spiritual life. And I'm obviously not diminishing all the other practical service, but you can mop floors. Well, I don't want to say something that's untrue, but mopping floors alone will not take you back to Godhead. It's all service is valuable, but the necessity of chanting nice japa and reading nicely. So anything extra you do on top of it, chanting Chaitanya Charitamrita on the way to the airport, fantastic. You know, if you're chanting to yourself, having Mangalartik and singing samsara prayers while you're driving the car or you're on the bus, fantastic. You know, whatever it is, I have what is his name? In LA, you know, I have Amala Bhakti's Chaitanya Charitamrita in my car. And I've gone through that at least 5 or 6 times. And it just happens to be something I like. You may, you know, whatever it works for you, you know. But I just, every time I'm in my car, I don't mind traffic. Unless I've got to be somewhere. I don't mind if there's traffic coming from LA. Just, I hear another half hour of Chaitanya Charitamrita, fine by me. So, it's a yes and. We have to, in other words, you have to have the foundation and you can always add on top of it. But don't assume that the extra marginal attention is sufficient or supplants. You know, I chanted my 16 rounds while driving the car, while picking out the groceries, while, you know, answering phone. No. Does that answer your question?
Wonderful answer. Thank you very much, Maharaj.
All right, Prabhu. And I'm thinking, because it's late, what about Vijay?
Oh, please, Maharaj, I'm begging on my knees.
Okay, short question. Short.
Yes, Maharaj, who is making progress? The non-devotee who thinks that to make progress in life is to accumulate money in order to spend it in sense gratification, or the devotee who, at least apparently, is no better than a beggar door to door. Some people say that the Hare Krishnas are no better than parasites. So who is making progress?
Really? Oh, definitely the materialist who's got money in the bank. And I'm waiting for Vijay's response. No, obviously, what have they actually gathered? You know, in a dream, you know, the temple finances go up and down sometimes, especially in those days. I was the temple president. We were in a tight financial pinch. And in a dream, I won the lottery. Literally, we pulled into the 7-Eleven right over here, my son and I. And he said, "Hey, Peter, there's a lottery ticket." I said, "Well, we don't gamble." He said, "We're not gambling. It's just lying on the ground. Pick it up." In my dream. So I picked it up. You know, my son looked at the newspaper the next day. One night was like $60 million. Oh, I sent a check to the BBT. I sent a check to Mayapur. We put a nice shikar on top of it. I was in ecstasy. I was spending money like a drunk sailor. Drunk on Baba, let's say that on Krishna Prem. I was spending, you know. And then, bonk, 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 my alarm went off. It was 3:30 in the morning, and I was poor as a church mouse. I must admit, I was thrown. I had to kind of regroup my senses for a moment there because the bills were all stacked on the desk, and so. But at the end of the day, it was a dream. I didn't have a penny, and this whole material world is a dream. What do you walk away with? You don't walk away with anything. I saw the bumper sticker: the one who dies with the most toys wins. You ever seen that sticker, bumper sticker? It's an old one. The one who dies with the most toys wins. I say the one who dies with the most toys still dies. It's all over. Where the toys go? To the dimwit relatives. So it's a simple thing that the devotee, and there's no question, we have Einstein is not trying to figure out right now E = mc squared. He's in first grade, and he's trying to, if Johnny has 5 apples and Sally takes 2, he's trying to figure it out. You know, he's back there at square one. He's taking his shoes off, counting on his toes, counting on his fingers. He's nowhere. He didn't make any progress at all. But Prabhupada says any advancement, yoga brishta, one picks up where one left off. It's a progressive march back to Godhead. So we can end there. All glories to Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. Breathtaking answer to my question. Hare Krishna.
He says it all the time. It doesn't matter whatever you answer. He's enthusiastic. Where does he live? He lives in the Azores. Exactly. The Azores are one of the most remote places in the world. They're little islands off the coast of Portugal. It's in the Atlantic. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's beautiful. It has, you know, every kind of hurricane that goes through there. It gets hit. It's a beautiful country. It's in the Azores. A-Z-O-R-E-S.